All right, so my presentation today is on the Israel-Palestine conflict by me, Max and Cameron. So before any of the actual conflict ever started, the according to John Green's crash course video on YouTube, um, the area in which Israel currently resides was part of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was, very big empire that pretty much ran through a lot of Europe and the Middle Eastern, Asian countries. But then towards World War II, it kind of shrunk. But I'll get back to World War II. And that was, Palestine was pretty much that area that the Ottoman Empire controlled. It was easier just to call it that because it was more of like the section, similar to like the Middle East, as some people would say. Um, and before any of this, there was a lot of Jews in Europe. Polish Jews, German Jews. Those were the most common forms of Jews that you'd find because that's just where they always lived. And then England is involved in all of this because England conquers everyone, and they had control over the Israeli land before any of this conflict ever really started. And when World War II is over, pretty much, they kind of ushered in the Jews to Israel. The Jews also wanted the land because they had no place to really call home. So again, going back to England, they were like, "Do you guys want this land right here? It's your holy land that you at least claim it is." So like, yeah, we want that, and it was kind of like the nationalist Zionist was the Zionist is like the term used to show like that they really wanted their own land, the holy land. This is a map of the UN's pretty much plan of how they're going to set it up before they actually like set it in, and it was kind of agreed upon, but the Arabs were like, no, we don't want the Jews here at all. Like they're going to end up taking up all of our land, and they don't deserve it because it's our holy land, not theirs. So during the 1900s, again, we had World War II break out, which kind of kicked all the Jews out of Europe and said, you need a new place to go. So they were all moving towards Palestine either way, but they really needed a place where they were going to be safe, and that really wasn't entirely Palestine. So according to Zach Beauchamp of Vox.com, Israel pretty much officially established itself as a country in 1948, again with the help of England. And then, according to interactivealjazeera.com, Israel actually started expanding into different sectors in 1967. This came pretty much as a result of the Six-Day War, which, to absolutely no one's surprise, lasted about 6 days. Um, so Israel actually ended up taking over the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, which were like pretty two important parts of the Arab culture, and like the control that they had over it at the time was now lost because Israel took over during the Six-Day War. So currently, what is going on? Times are relatively peaceful, but that's usually because every year or so, every couple of years, Israel and Palestine will be like, hey, let's call an agreement to just have some peace for like a month, because they're tired of just having everyone die and missiles being shot back and forth, which creates nothing but destruction over the land, which they call their holy land. Um, what else is going on is that there's more Arabs moving into Israel. So it is technically an open country for the most part, Israel. It's very similar to the United States. We have a lot invested in Israel for some reason. Um, but it's similar to how we have, our borders, people are allowed in and allowed to become citizens, and the Arab Palestinians are kind of moving in. So this kind of leads to the fact that the Israelis and the actual like, Jewish people within Israel might not be the majority in population, which would not be great for them if they want to remain in control, because this country was in fact founded for the, safety of the Jewish people to have like their own place to call home. On the right, we have a picture of the Wailing Wall, which is the holiest place in all of Jewish history, essentially. Um, at least it's the most like powerful and significant figure, and it's like the third most important place for Arab culture. Um, there's like two other places that the Arabs still have control over, and Israel really has none. And it's very much, this is important to them, but it's not as important. But it's still like the Arabs like, no, we do not want to give this up to the Jews. Like this is our holy land. Like all of this is ours. We don't know why the Jews are claiming it's theirs. This is like our stuff. So like stop claiming it. So now what is going on? We'll see, because if Israel says, "Hey, we're going to take away the Arabs' right to vote. Like, this is our country, this is our safe haven. This isn't theirs anymore. We took it over. We fought 6 days war. We took even more of their land because they were trying to take our land." Which, the first initial like planning outs for the division of land between the Israelis and the Arabs, Jews and Arabs, was actually really heavily favored toward the Arabs. But again, the Arabs were very much like, no, this is not their land. We're not having any of this. Y'all are getting out of here. So if they really say, no, this is our land now, you don't even have a say in our democracy and our government, it's not great, because it's kind of saying, are you really a democratic nation if you're making people second class citizens who do technically reside within your country and aren't, they are legal citizens? At least according to Callie Robinson from CFR.com, which again, I completely agree with that point. If you're going to claim to be a democracy and claim freedom and peace for everyone, you kind of got to stand by it. And it kind of shows how they're going to be reflected on the rest of the world, especially within the Palestine, Middle Eastern area, with all those different countries being like, hey, Israel's not doing great. They're not doing a whole lot of things good for human rights, especially bombing back and forth between Palestine and Jordan. It's not good. But again, if the Arabs take control, it pretty much just takes away from the whole purpose of developing Israel, and there's no real Jewish safe haven again. And who knows? Are they going to go to a different land? Are they going to find somewhere else to go? It's kind of up in the air. No one's really sure. Now you say, how about they do a compromise? Jews get to keep the Wailing Wall, the Arabs keep their places, we divide out the land. It's just not going to happen. Because if it was going to happen, it would have happened years ago, when the Arabs had so much more land and would have had so much more control over the Jews in this section of Israel, or this section of Palestine, Middle East, that then became Israel. So it's really up in the air. I honestly think that the Jews should have still some place to stay, a country to call their own. And Israel is the size of like New Jersey. It is a very small country, but I think they need to keep it, democratic, keep it open for everyone, because it's the most fair way to keep it. And also just because it is holy for both people, as long as everyone is able to find some form of, reliable, where everyone kind of wins and loses, you kind of tally out the points essentially. There can be some form of compromise, but both sides have to be able to give a little bit. And if they don't end up giving, it's just going to keep being violence for years and years and years and years and years to come. So, all right, that is my presentation. I hope y'all enjoyed, and thank you very much. Gross.